Good evening, good evening. Welcome to Detroit in Black and White. This is our Friday evening edition. Adolph will not be with us this evening. However, he will be with us tomorrow morning. Um, Eric Brown, I don't know if he's joining us this evening or not, but who we have on deck besides Queen Bee and a early story is drum roll Allan Lengel, who's making matzo balls,
Matzo ball soup.
matzo ball soup, and of Deadline Detroit and the Washington Post. We also have Jim Nardone, former chief of police in Trenton, Michigan, and a Trenton resident. Good evening.
Good evening. Part of the B team, as I like to call myself.
The
Represent down.
The
A
B
team.
team.
I don't know what you talking about. We the A team. I'm the
I'm
A team.
talking about me. I'm not talking about you.
I'll speak for myself. I'm the A team. Hey, Dorian Denard, let's get it. Let's get it. Let's get it. So before we went live, we talked about a few things, and there was something that Alan wanted to bring up. But today, this Friday, what we're going to do after Alan brings up his subject and after Jim brings up his subject, we want to hear what you guys have on your mind. You, the viewers of Detroit in Black and White. So you know what? We want you to put it on the comments. We want you to like, subscribe, and share, and tell everybody about the greatest podcast on this side of the United States, Detroit in Black and White. Okay, Alan, let's go. It's burning
I was
here.
just saying my outrage. The federal government filed their sentencing memorandum, which is a recommendation for what the sentence should be. They recommended 18 years for William A. Smith, and here's a picture of him on for a yacht, and there's his girlfriend, who he gave $3.7 million to, and leased a Maserati. He embezzled more than $40 million, which is just still mind-boggling, and it's a legitimate question to ask with all the board members and all these bright board members. How did a guy over 11 years take $40 million? He rented, he chartered a yacht for a Caribbean cruise. He had private jets flying him everywhere. He spent over $500,000 on courtside seats at the Pistons. He lived a life, and I mean, I'll give him credit. He did spend the money, and I see, in D.C. I covered where the school board union president, her and the vice president, I think they embezzled like $10 million. They raided her apartment in D.C. The president, and she had fur coats that still had like the tags on them. She had TVs that were still in the boxes. I mean, I don't get it. Why you would risk that? First of all, your integrity, but also your freedom to get stuff that is just, I mean, he lived like a billionaire. I mean, I'm not even saying like a multimillionaire. He lived like a very, very wealthy man. And, he had fun for 11 years, and now he's going to go to prison for a long
Not
time.
worth it.
Yeah, well, it looks like it, but let me say this, and I've said this before because we've talked about this subject before. Listen, you outraged about him. I'm outraged about the board members because you know what? As far as I'm concerned, there was
Oh,
a dereliction of duty. Your job is not just to say that I'm sitting on the board. You have a duty to figure out what's going on for the director, the CFO, the chief, whatever, to answer to you. And you cannot tell me, I don't care what anybody says, that nobody knew what was going on. There had to be an accounting. You mean to tell me over all that time there was completely no oversight? There doesn't need to be a Detroit Conservancy, as far as I'm concerned. Everybody on that board need to go and sit down somewhere. That is ridiculous. For one person to take the fall, every last one of them are responsible.
but when you say but I'm outraged about the board, which I agree with you on that. But are you not outraged that he stole $40 million?
I'm outraged about the whole thing.
Okay.
Listen, for
Uh,
one person to take the fall, I'm pissed off about that. I think that every last one of them, listen, they knew what was going on. They knew exactly what was going on. One of our viewers just asked that somebody just asked about the duos, because he and some other guy, they own this club called Duos that's on Northwestern Highway, right above 12 Mile. My office actually sits right across the street. And he asked the question is, who's buying Duos $155,000 for the business according to the feds? I have no idea who's buying Duos, but what I can tell you, Dorian, is this. For a very long time, the Southwood Police Department wanted to close the place down because it was always some drama going on up there. There were shootings going on up there. Somebody was a couple of people were shot up there. They would close it down, just like they do in the city. They close it down for a few weeks or months or whatever, and then they open it back up. So I don't know who's buying Duos. And quite frankly, I'm not trying to be funny. I'm one of those people who stopped going. I used to go because they would have a good you could have a good time. Adults would have good time. I like, to have a good music, good food. All of a sudden, you would see all these, people that I just don't, and I'm not better than anybody, but the kind of crowd that it began to cater to, it was not my kind of thing. So I don't know who's buying it, and whoever buys it, it's going to be very interesting as to what kind of people they will be catering to. But go ahead, Jim. I know you probably want to get in there. And Queen B says she's bothered. She agreed with me about the whole board. But go ahead.
Well, I love to do mine, but can we do Queen Bee and Miss Sheila's outrages before we do mine?
Okay. All right. But did you want to comment about the Detroit Conservancy?
I just want to know who's paying the bills. I want to know who's going to be hurt. Is it the city? Is it taxpayers? Who is ending up with the final bill, and who's hurt the most besides
Right.
this guy that nobody was paying attention to, they were all asleep at the wheel?
Nobody's paying attention to. I'm
How
like,
does he
you
get
guys
away
go
with
on a meeting and you mean to tell me you don't have an agenda and you don't talk about. Listen, I sit on a few boards. We have an agenda. We have, listen, a treasurer's report. We have, and not to say that people can't fudge it, but for that long and for that much money, that is crazy. I will say that the riverfront project, Alan, is still going on because I live right next door, and
Right.
actually they're saying that we'll be able to. I know last spring they had some kind of opening where we could go, the residents here could go and check it out or whatever. And it looks pretty cool. It's going to be really, really nice once they finish it off. So there's plenty of money that's being spent and plenty of money that's going around because they still have money to continue with the project, which
I
is quite interesting.
Years ago, I bought as a wedding gift. I can't remember how many bricks for a couple that was getting married, where you could put the bricks on the sidewalk down there at the riverfront. And I can't remember what they charged. It was 150 or whatever it was. But I look, the board. I mean, I've covered over the years many embezzlements and stuff like that. Usually it's 1 or 2 million, and usually it's a little here, a little there. But this is like over 11 years. I mean, over $40 million is a lot. I mean, he manipulated the books. He refused to show. He took care of everything, but still, the board.
And they said nothing. He
The
took care of
board.
everything. And they
Well,
said,
the board has an obligation to say we want to see where we want to see revenues, and where the hell are the revenues going? I mean, to miss $40 million and still be able to operate. I mean, he was using credit cards and he was doing all crazy kinds of shit. But to his credit, I mean, it was a brilliant scam for 11 years. But the board really, as you said, the board should all, including Matt Cullen, who's like really a big shot in this town, and he's one of he's the top board member, I think.
yeah, and guess what? We need to be asked questions. I'm sorry.
Well, I'm sure they've all been asked questions. The question is, who knows? I mean, all of them needed to take. If you're on a board, you take the responsibility. There's probably no payment to serve on the board, but because it's a nonprofit. But
You know what? I don't know, because some of these boards, they'll be nonprofits, but some of these people do get stipends. I'm not going to start dropping names, but I know a couple of boards where people get a pretty nice penny to sit on boards. I get nothing to sit on a board.
Yeah.
And Dorian's one step ahead of me. Is this donor money?
Look, other than the satisfaction of contributing to our community, And I take great pride in that. But a lot of these people do get paid. Okay.
Yeah.
Is it donor money? Is it
A
how
lot.
is
I don't know if all their funding comes from donor money or foundations or what. I'm sure some must come from foundations and all that. But it's some of the boards that you serve on, you get $50,000 a year, or some $100,000 a year. Sometimes you see people like when I was on strike at the Detroit News, Tom Brokaw's wife sat on the Gannett board. I think she got $50,000. She had a toy store in Manhattan. She didn't know anything about the media, but they wanted that name. So you see a lot of these boards that want prestigious names on their board, and they're willing to pay them for it.
Absolutely. I know somebody's getting like 200, almost close to $200,000 a year to sit on the board.
to just go to 12 meetings a year or whatever it is? A lot of them.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Hey,
And they're
And get a trip.
person. So, it's just very, very interesting. And I didn't read your story. I just saw the headlines, but I will say this. I do know that a lot of times with these charges, there's a whole lot of overinflation and a whole lot of overstating, because what they do is they cast a wide net and see what they can get. So,
That
what
sounds like a
you
defense attorney.
yes, what you just talked about, Alan, you said $40 million, and then you talked about the yacht and the girlfriend or whatever. That still don't amount to $40 million.
So
So
there's a lot of he bought businesses, he bought property. He spent. I mean, he owned
I
real
don't
estate.
believe that man spent $40 million to save my soul. I'm not saying that it's not true. I'm
He
telling you
could
what I
have hidden
believe.
some.
I
Look,
can tell you what I believe. I know what they do.
well, I'm just saying he could have also stashed it somewhere. He could have offshore bank accounts where he's, putting some of the money. They may not. I don't know if they've been able to account for every dollar, but they know how much is missing.
Dorian
All
said,
right.
"Who trusts a Negro, no one white, to handle that kind of money without oversight? Never in history has it happened." It's hilarious. Miss Sheila
Thank you
said,
for your
"Hey,
comment.
right,
Miss
Miss
Sheila and Queen Bee, of course. Queen Bee is a great contributor to the show.
right,
And hey, Eric,
yeah,
I'm
uh,
looking at some of the names here,
yeah."
and
Sheila said, "Everybody got paid. Why did the board member resign?" Um, Queen Bee says she sits on the boards too, and she doesn't get paid. She said she asked the Detroit Rescue Mission Ministries to be audited because their spending is suspect, and Chad Audie requested my removal. I'm
isn't that the way? Isn't that how it always works out? Whenever you start looking at stuff, they're like, we don't need this
right,
person around.
Well,
right.
everybody
And,
who sits on the board should demand that there be accountability for the expenditures, for the revenues, for the operation, and obviously, well, we'd like to think that the Conservancy has now set up some checks and balances. Usually, most places you have to have two people sign a check. It sounds like they didn't have a lot of things in place to, you
no,
know.
they didn't. And so, like I said, he went down. I think some other people should have gone down as well. But it always happens that one person has to take the fall.
Well, the main
Well,
person has
at
taken
least
the
he
fall.
balled out. He balled out according to you, Alan. So
And
Well,
hello to Kenneth out there. Kenneth is a great contributor to our show. And Edward, Miss
right,
Sheila, I may have mentioned. Angela Beatty, good evening. Thank you for
Dwayne
tuning in.
Boyce,
Duela.
Anthony,
Duela's always at the top. I
that's
got
my
it.
fam. That's my
Same day. I have to get back to her. She's way at the top. She's always right there. So
Yeah, yeah,
can I
yeah.
talk about a little something
Yes,
with our viewers? Thank everybody that's tuning in tonight. We appreciate it, right? I'm happy. I get to spend time with my friends on this show, but I learn just as much from the people that are participating, our contributors, as I learn from anybody else. The guests, the co-hosts, our contributors make this show, and I want to say thanks. But while I'm on that, contributors, I'm looking for some of our old friends. If anybody out there can find our friends, I don't really want to put out an APB on them. There was Marlon Holt that down in Florida, Vanessa and Adolph beat up pretty good on a few weeks ago. Marlon, if you're out there, come back. I need your help.
well, look, I tried to listen. I had a moment of sanity, and I was like, you know what? No, I looked at his comment. I said, listen, I'm not trying to beat up on Marlon, but Adolph just went all in. So,
We need Marlon. I love Marlon, and you don't like my music. The Irishman from Toronto. I miss him. I don't know where he went. If I
oh,
hope he's okay.
he out of town. I know where
I,
he is. He
He's
been
international. I don't want to lose our one international. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Alan.
I'm looking at the Detroit Riverfront Conservancy, the board, and we have as the officers, the top officer, the chair is Matt Cullen, who we know is a very prominent person.
I walked the color mug, but go ahead.
And then we have other people, including where I see is Mary Sheffield as a board member,
Oh, she is.
executive committee, the audit committee, Amy Robinson, compensation committee, Jennifer Hudson's, finance, John Blanchard. So there's, I guess the question is if Mary Sheffield, unless she's a new member, I think maybe she should be asked that question as well. Like, what's going on?
Do you have Garland Gilchrist's name on there?
I don't see it. I have a feeling a lot of people have bolted. I don't see his name on here. So maybe he may have been on there. I think some people have left. And so the question is, I don't know if Mary Sheffield's a new member or an old board member, but if she's an old board member, I think that's a question for to ask her as well. And I'm sure a lot of these board members are board members in name only, and they probably participate very little in the.
Well, that's a bad group to have your name listed under at this point. A couple more things, if I could. Kenneth Reed. I know Kenneth Reed's around town somewhere. Kenneth, where are you? If you're out there, come visit with us. And the reason I bring that up is because we all have different views and different opinions. And we have to respect each other's opinion. We don't always agree, right? Everybody comes from a different place. They have different experiences, and everybody's entitled to their opinion, whether they're far right, far left, or they're right square in the middle. So whether that's Marlon, who's maybe a little bit right, or you don't like my music that seems to be a little bit left, we don't care. We love you guys no matter what you do, and we need to be that show.
Well, I want to say this. Everybody's opinion on the show is his or her opinion. Jim is talking for Jim. He's not talking for Vanessa. I don't respect your opinion, Jim, or yours, Alan, or anybody else's in the comment section. I'm just messing with you. But listen, I may not agree, and I don't have to agree. I may not like it, and I don't have to like it. But guess what? We don't have to fall out about it. We don't have to fall out about it, and it does not have to get, we don't have to get nasty about it. So
I'm looking at an older list, and Gilchrist is on. I think the list is
okay. Queen Bee, she was right.
Yeah, yes, the list has been pared down quite a bit. I think probably a lot of people, including George Jackson, used to be on the board. I don't think he's on the board anymore. I think a lot of people either realized it was a liability to be, particularly Garland Gilchrist running for governor. Why would you want to be on the Riverfront board at this point? So
yeah. I was just getting, somebody asked, says, has anyone seen Adolph? We've talked to him. He's doing fine. He'll be on the show tomorrow. He's doing fine. He has something else going on this evening, so he'll be on tomorrow. He'll be on tomorrow tripping.
It's not because he doesn't want to be here. He has some other issues.
All right. So, Jim, there was something else that you wanted to talk about. I'm going to bring up something that Miles brought up today. My son brought up today, which was quite interesting.
So we have the stock market. We have undocumented issue in this country right now. I think there's a lot of issues, but the catchphrase of the last 2 months is due process, right? And Vanessa, as an attorney, I want you to tell our viewers again. I know we've talked about it before, but it keeps coming up. What exactly does due process mean to you?
So due process means to me it's a process. The process of law ensures fair treatment within the legal system, guaranteeing individuals are treated equally according to established rules before the government can deprive them of life, liberty, or property.
Okay, so I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So it is a fundamental concept of the United States Constitution, and I, for one, believe in due process. Now, when we say due process, I'm not saying that someone's outcome is going to be fair, because it depends on what side you're on, uh, and you determine for yourself whether or not it's fair. But the fact of the matter is, you're supposed to be able to go through a process. And I know that there are a lot of people, especially with this deportation thing going on, that a lot of people feel like because uh, there are people that are undocumented here, they didn't come here legally, that they should be shipped off. I'm not disputing that, but what I am disputing is the fact that there is a process to doing that. And to just load people up on planes, buses, boats, trains, or whatever the heck they're doing, I think it is ridiculous and it is illegal, period.
Yeah.
And we have allowed, and I say we, whether you voted for this administration or not, we have allowed someone to occupy the White House that stokes fear and says, you know what, we're going to walk all over the United States Constitution. But I'm going to tell you something. I don't believe he's the only person who has pushed the envelope, that has occupied the White House. I don't believe that. And I have faith. I really do. I have faith that we're going to see, when, I don't know, but there's going to be some pushback. There are a lot of lawyers, there are a lot of judges that said this is some BS that's going on. So we're going to see it. When, I don't know, but I do believe that. Yes.
When you mention other, look, every administration, I mean, the Justice Department has done stuff.
No, it doesn't, Eric. It doesn't just apply to naturalized American citizens. You're wrong on that, but go ahead.
No, I'm saying we've seen, look, I mean, there have been stories forever of people who have had injustices, who have been detained longer than they should have, inappropriately, whether it's this administration, the previous administration, the one before that. There have been injustices in the system. But, when we had Carl Marlingo, who was running for Congress, he talked about adding temporarily like 6,000 to 8,000 immigration judges to process these people and figure it out. I mean, what we're seeing also is that, the one guy that's been the big controversy out of Maryland, who's been deported to like El Salvador, that guy was here legally. And that's part of the real outrage, but they're grabbing people off the street. There is no due process. They're using some type of
When you said it's like the body of the what's the invasion of the body snatchers, the way you're describing it.
Yeah, but it's I mean, we're seeing there needs to be some due process, that they can't grab us and say, wait a minute, we'll be like, they've threatened to deport people, our citizens. It's just crazy. That's, we have to have a system. And the guy who they had a hearing, and they said, you need to get this guy back from El Salvador. And they asked the Justice Department attorney, they said, what's the status? What's going on with him? He goes, I don't know. The administration won't give me information.
Wow.
And,
Yeah, that's
and they fired I can't remember, they fired or suspended an attorney who went there and said, yes, we were wrong to deport him. And the Justice Department said, no, you can't tell the truth in court. You're representing us, which is ridiculous. As an officer of the court, you can't lie to a judge.
Oh, people do all day.
Well,
my question, I'm sorry. I was going to ask this.
And just like people are just trampling over due process, you're not supposed to, but people, we have this administration that is. Sanford Plotkin, I'm going to get back to you, Jim. Sanford Plotkin said Bondi is a shill for Trump, not an AG, Banana Republic.
He's an attorney.
Okay. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Plotkin. So my question to you and to Mr. Plotkin here is, what if
I'm a proud American.
So what if the 7 or 9 or 12, I don't know what the number is. I'm not going to represent Fox News and say there's 20 million undocumented. I'm not going to represent CNN that says there's 6. I don't know what the number is. Let's say there's 6. What if, how many times, I'll ask the attorneys and our colleagues here, how many times, and I kind of know the answer, but I'm going to ask you anyways, if everybody asked for a jury trial and there was 6 million new jury trials, what does that do to the justice system? Having probably knowing the answer as a police officer for almost
I
30
don't
years.
know. And maybe or Sandy Plotkin knows. I'm not sure. There's an immigration process for due process.
Exactly.
I don't think there's a jury. I don't think
Right.
there's a whole
I
jury
don't think
thing.
so.
You
Right.
present evidence, and the judge decides. You go, you stay, you're detained, whatever.
Absolutely.
But wouldn't that be a violation of someone's due process if they're entitled to the
That
same
is a
rights
due
under the Constitution?
process. That is a
No.
due process that's set
Okay.
up.
Exactly. And Alan, I'm going to give you your props for that one. You're absolutely correct. They're not going to have a jury trial like you have for a criminal matter. That's completely different. That is why, because I don't know who, I think Alan might have said this. That is why you had what's his name from Macomb County? He would kill me right now. That was running for Congress. The
Carl
one
Marlenga.
Carl Mongo was talking about, we need some more immigration administrative judges to handle those matters because it's a different area and it's a different expertise. Okay.
So here's Sandy Plotkin, who does.
Listen, you know what, Eric, I appreciate you, but you're not right on everything, just like I'm not on everything, but you're not right. Okay. All right. Vanessa, I know you're right. People lie to judges all the time. Sometimes the judges are aware. Ouchie. Okay.
And some of them even lie back.
All right. Sandy Plotkin, who does federal law, who's a defense attorney, says a lot of this is to be handled administratively. That provides due process.
That's my question. That's my point. So we have so what you're saying is an American citizen, a U.S. citizen, has a different right to due process than an undocumented immigrant. So I think we need to tell people that, because when the Detroit News talks about due process, the first thing you do is say, I have the right to a speedy trial of a jury of my peers.
That's completely different. There are some people who even think, there was somebody, actually I have something going on now that thinks that they're going to get a jury trial in a divorce. No, that's not happening here. Okay.
That's not a criminal trial.
Our immigration laws are set up
different, right?
Our immigration laws are set up. If you violate, if you're here, whether it's on a green card or whatever, but you're not a citizen, they can deport you. They can't deport us because we are Americans. We have a different set of due process. But for the immigration system, it's like you commit a crime. They can put you through a trial, or they can just deport you through a due process.
You know what? What's interesting is we always have people who pick on the little people. The big people pick on the poor people. The people that are in power pick on the powerless. You have this big thing about undocumented people. But listen, the reality is some of these very same people who are jumping up and down, they use these people to clean their house, wash their babies, walk their dogs, work on the farms to pick the fruit, the vegetables, to do all of those things. And so which helps the American economy. Okay. I don't think that people really think about those things. People just think about, oh, yes, they need to get out of here. But I think that you have to look at it globally and look at, are there contributions that's being made? Alan, I didn't mean to go down this path today, but there's a young man in Atlanta. He was from, I forgot what part of Africa, but he was here in the United States, and he's a barber in Atlanta, okay? He committed a crime when he was a teenager, like 17, 18, maybe between 17 and 20 years old, okay? He did his time. He turned his life around, and he actually had his record expunged. But because he committed a crime, he's sitting he's sitting with ICE, and they're talking about deporting him. He has been here over since he was a kid. He came here as a kid. His parents brought him here as a kid. He doesn't know anything about the country that they're talking about shipping him back to. Right. But this is somebody who has contributed to society, contributed to the economy. And this is supposed to be the United States, who believe in rehabilitation, believe in people doing things. If you pay for your debts to society, attaboy, you go on. I don't know how anybody could look at that and still say, anybody that does not have compassion or empathy and still say, well, yeah, he needs to get the hell out of here. That to me is just crazy. That is insane.
Yeah. No, I look, it's also, as you say before, in the service industry. I mean, I've gone to so many hotels where I don't know what the status of some of the workers are, but a lot of them don't speak any English. Like I've asked, hey, do you know where the towels are? And they're like, no. And so we have a lot of workers here. And as you say, migrants in the farm field, in Southern California.
It's not that people don't want to do it. I'm not trying
Right.
to be funny. There are
That's
people who
society.
can work, and they was like, I don't want to do that. Okay. And listen, some of them very same people, we talk about the city of Detroit, they buying houses from the land bank, fixing these jokers up in the hood. Okay. They painting them, putting, new gutters on the house roofs and everything else. Stuff that the people that live here don't want to do.
Right.
Okay. And so I think that I'm not saying that there's not a right way to become a citizen here and here in the United States. I've always been consistent that there needs to be a process. But you know what? We vote these people in office, and I can't remember a time when we didn't talk about immigration. We didn't talk about things need to be fixed, and things are still not fixed. No. So the answer now is, listen, we put them all on a boat, a ship, a plane, or whatever, and that's going to fix the system. I don't think so. And like I said, the very same hypocrites that's talking about sending them back, they got them cleaning their houses. Trust and believe. They got them buying their groceries. They got them serving as nannies and pappies to their babies, walking their dogs, all of that, painting their houses.
Hey,
So, but you
ABC News did a tour of the El Salvador prison. They had 80 people, and some of these people have no criminal conviction from what they have 80 people in one cell, 2 toilets. They're like sardines. Like I can't imagine being in, and the question becomes,
public.
do we, I mean, here in this country, I mean, we have some pretty bad prisons, but they're not supposed to be what they are. I mean, we have stabbings and rapes and all that kind of stuff in prisons, and some of the federal prison has some nice prisons, and there are some minimum security camps here in Michigan that are not so bad.
Marlon is back. Hey, what's up, Marlon? Marlon said, why didn't he get legal under Biden? I have no idea why he didn't. But listen, why didn't he get legal under before Biden? If he's been here 30 something years, I don't know. I can't remember them in succession. But the bottom line, he didn't do it as well as a whole lot of people. Eric says, Vanessa, who has compassion? He typed it in capital letters like he's hollering at me for 400 years of slavery. Well, obviously, Eric, you have compassion, and I don't know where you're going with this, because to me, this apples and oranges. We're talking about two different things. Okay, we're talking about two different things.
I think the bottom line is we can care about more than one thing.
I agree. It can be two things can be right.
We can care about,
or two things could be wrong.
Yeah, look, slavery.
Or two things could be in between.
Right. The stealing, the theft of Indian land, the killing of the Indians. I mean, the world has a lot of atrocities, a lot of horrible things, and we can care about those, and we can also care about what's going on, and we should be learning from those horrible things and bringing some of that compassion into today and figure out what we should care about.
So, we can be in favor of deporting criminals tomorrow morning, but not in favor of the guy in my neighborhood who has an autistic young man that he was arrested at dropping a kid off from school, and we can talk about how disgraceful that may be. Right?
Hey, Marlon, I'm so glad you're
I'm so happy. So am I. I mean, it made my whole day. Marlon's back. So
you see
anyway,
that,
I think you're right. I think Alan.
Marlon, let's box.
I think you hit it right on. I think you hit it on the head, Alan.
He
with
said,
that.
Marlon said that. I guess he said he should have he had time to get it together. Perhaps. I mean, I've read stories about people who've hired lawyers in the past, and the person was an immigration lawyer, and they gave them all this money and to get their
nobody cared
and stuff like that kind of
cared.
thing. Well, who knows? I don't know. I can't answer for you. I'm just just sharing the story.
But Queen Bee hits on that too. Go ahead. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Vanessa.
Listen, there's something that my son talked about, youngest son talked about today. He said, "Listen, Mom, what do you think about this young man, Carmelo Anthony? He stabbed somebody."
I think you got the name wrong. Carmelo Anthony's
The
a
basketball
basketball
player.
No,
player.
that's his not. No, that's his name because I
Okay.
asked him, was it the son? And I remember seeing
Oh,
something about it in the
Okay.
oh, it was.
yeah,
Okay.
today. But he stabbed someone to death. And so anyway, there was a GoFundMe page, and because of the crime, yeah, Queen Bee is right. Like I said, yeah, that's his name. Because of the
Sorry.
crime, they have snatched his GoFundMe page. But Miles thought it was very interesting because you had Kyle Rittenhouse, who went to the church and killed all of those black people in the church, and he had a GoFundMe page, and nobody snatched that. And I thought it was very interesting for a young person to be. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, he was outraged to bring it to my attention. He was like, that is pretty hypocritical, and that's pretty effed up." Okay, GoFundMe is some BS. I agree with you. I don't do GoFundMes at all.
Yeah, I'd rather write a
It's
check.
Carmelo Anthony with the Carmelo's with a K.
Hmm.
He's
I
seven.
pronounced his
He's
name.
seven.
I didn't say the
No, you were
spelling.
right. Yeah, but
Yeah.
I'm sorry, he was 17 years old, I guess. So
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. 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 So I don't know if you guys have an opinion on it or not, but what is your opinion?
I'm not familiar with the story. I know
Yeah.
who Carmelo Anthony
Google
is.
it.
He's a power forward from
We'll
Syracuse,
talk
wherever
about
he
it
played.
tomorrow. We'll resume the conversation tomorrow after you Google it tonight. How about that? That's your
Okay. My apologies for when you said his name. I thought, okay.
no, 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 not at all. I did see today. Yeah, Kyle. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Kyle, and they had a Eric. They had a GoFundMe page for Kyle Rittenhouse.
He's the
Okay,
guy from
all
Minnesota.
those people at the church. He was a shooter at the church. Whereas this young man, Carmelo Anthony, he's a black young man, 17. They were the same age. He's committed a crime, heinous crime, and he had a GoFundMe page. And guess what? They took his GoFundMe page. And so I just think it's very interesting. The other night we was talking about the difference and how people are treated differently. And I'm saying that here's a young person who says, look, I read this article and I got a problem with it.
Dylan Roof. You're getting him confused with Dylan Roof, I think. Are you talking about Dylan Roof?
Is it Dylan Roof?
Yes.
I don't know which
he
one.
was the church.
Who was the one who had the GoFundMe page?
Oh, I'm not sure.
Were you-
Dylan Roof was the South Carolina, the Charleston.
I mean, clearly, Kyle
Well,
Rittenhouse.
we'll all do our homework tonight. How about that?
Yeah, okay.
Kyle Rittenhouse got away with murder, and he had no business being there. He had his mother, I guess, drive him up
He
there.
had a GoFundMe page for his defense.
Probably. I mean, look, there's a lot of people who
Kyle
say,
is supposedly killed somebody, and he had a GoFundMe page, and they snatched his GoFundMe page.
You know why Marlon came on
that
tonight? He knows
legal?
I was down in Florida looking for him last week.
Okay,
So.
Marlon, listen, we all gonna do some homework tonight. My son told me about this today before we went on air. He engaged me in conversation about it. So, and I'm sure he's watching, and I'm sure he will further educate me. I'm going to educate myself, and we can resume this conversation perhaps tomorrow. Adolph will be here tomorrow, and we have a couple of guests on the show, but maybe we can circle back to this conversation. There was even a GoFundMe page for Trump at one time. It sure was. Deborah G. Hey, Deborah G. What's up? She said it was self-defense. It was a white boy he stabbed. Right. Okay. All right. Yep. Okay. So hopefully you guys will have an opinion once you read it tomorrow and tell me how you feel about it. It was something else that I want to bring up today, but I done started talking and running my mouth. So
Wasn't Eric? I want Eric to tell us about the event he has tomorrow too. Eric is out there. He's got an event tomorrow, right?
He does.
Yeah. Well, in the meantime, I want to say tomorrow that we have John Barlow, who is a mayoral candidate for the city of Detroit. We've got Jason Rowe, who we've had on before, who's a GOP consultant, who's not a big supporter of Trump, but he is a big supporter of the Republican Party. And then we've got Robert Brown, who's an attorney who went to school with Adolph and I.
Oh yeah, the guy from Florida.
Yeah, and he's a
Yeah,
big U of M booster. He worked for
yeah.
the football team and all that. So he's going to talk about DEI at the University of Michigan. So
Oh yeah, that was a big story. I read that about that last week. But listen, I've said this before. They can get rid of the uh, diversity, equity, and inclusion programs in these stores, at these businesses, and things like that. But they're always going to find a way to get around it. You may not call it that, but they're going to do something different. I just believe that. And as far as I'm concerned, I don't know um, how it has. I'm going to speak for myself. I can't truly say that I've benefited or that people that I know have benefited, because when you're talking about contracts, especially when you talk about with the federal government, Caucasian women and other people benefited more so than Black folks. So it was I'm very pressed to be really outraged about the whole DEI. I think what enrages a lot of us is that it's a dog whistle. When you say that, you automatically think, okay, oh, so they're talking about us. They don't want us to have anything. They don't want us to, they feel like, they're giving us something. Well, in fact, when people get these contracts, when in fact people get positions, you have to perform. You have to keep it. Okay, that's your responsibility. So, I'm like this with that.
Well,
That's
it's unfortunate that we need laws and rules like that in 2025. We should not. People should be better, but they're not, and
right.
that's
I mean, look, the words itself are pretty nice: diversity, equity, inclusion. That's a very nice phrase, but as a lot of things get politicized, woke used to be a good thing, and now it's like bad. Being the word liberal has been weaponized. Probably, MAGA has been weaponized both ways. So we the intention is good, and sometimes the execution is always perfect.
so we're 50% there. Have a good night, Marlon. Thanks for checking in with us tonight. We missed you, and we're glad you're back. And
Yeah. Yep.
don't
Yep.
let anybody grumpy people bother you. Just keep coming in and being who you are. Thank you.
And you know what? He can type and say whatever he wants to say. I mean, again, if we agree, we agree. If we disagree, we disagree. And your opinion is your opinion, Marlon. And Vanessa's opinion is Vanessa's opinion. But we're happy that you're here. We're happy that you're here, Sam. God bless. He said, God bless Mike Duggan. That's quite interesting, Sam.
Hey,
Kenneth
Well, what's
Green.
wrong with that? I don't understand. Why are you laughing?
That's just quite interesting because I read something today. Um, well, we talked about something the other day, and you know what? Listen, no one person does everything right, and you don't do everything wrong. But it seems to me that certain people that hold positions that would be um, the governor of the state of Michigan, the mayor of the city of Detroit. I don't know who your mayor is, Jim, but I will say the same thing. Everything that you do is not right. Okay.
Of course not.
And you guys have the nerve to be sensitive about criticism. How can you be an effective leader if nobody is calling you on your BS? So when he said, God bless Mayor Duggan, I just think it's interesting and I laugh. That's why,
I was just wondering. I mean, whether
I,
we agree with him or not, whether we think he did it
I
the right way or not, there
I
was some
want that.
transformational leadership there.
Yeah, I want whoever's in position to be successful, because I think if they're successful, we're going to be successful. I'm hopeful that that is the case. But I don't believe in holding nobody up on a pedestal. I don't care who the heck you are. No human being am I ever going to place on a pedestal.
Well, God
Period.
bless Vanessa Moss. That's what I say. So,
Period. The end. God bless me, but don't put me on a pedestal.
okay. I promise.
all right, we
I
won't.
get you in the door, but it takes work to keep the job. That's what I said. That's what I said. But what else are we going to talk about? We got 15 minutes. I forgot what I want to talk about. I did. Oh, you know what? Have you guys been keeping up with the guy on the east side of Detroit with that mansion? and he got on television telling people that land bank is trying to take my house. Did you guys see that?
I did not.
Was that the one where there's an article in the Free Press on Sunday talking about how they were cracking down on him?
It probably was an article in the Free Press. But what's interesting is, you guys know I watch a lot of YouTube. So about 3-4 weeks ago, I was watching YouTube and I saw this mansion on the east side. I looked at the video and I actually got in my car and drove over there. I will say this. I personally, well, anyway, I'll just leave that. I'll leave that alone. But at any rate, this guy gets on television. He has this YouTube page. People are doing all these clicks or whatever, and then he does an interview. The next thing you know, he's standing on television with these envelopes. They're manila color envelopes, and he says that the land bank is trying to take his house. Well, I knew immediately because, of course, both of my sons, Mom, did you see that? And I said, listen, I've had cases with the Detroit Land Bank. I said, that's nuisance and abatement. Some neighbors have called in on him. I don't understand why people are falling for the banana in the tailpipe. Thereafter, I started getting calls from people, and they shall remain nameless, and say, hey, he needs representation. And you guys are going to laugh. I said, listen, if he wants to have a conversation with me, he's going to have to take direction from me. This guy is tripping. First of all, he got all these people in the city of Detroit talking about the land bank. They doing him wrong. The neighbors want him to clean up his you know what. Clean it up. Nobody wants to see that. Clean it up. You bought all that property from the Detroit Land Bank. And when you buy that property from the Detroit Land Bank, you have a certain timeline where you have to do some things to bring the property up to code. You've had 10 years, sir. You've had 10 years, sir. But what really pissed me off is he has so many people upset because they don't understand exactly what's going on. You misrepresented the facts. You said that they're trying to take your house, when in fact they were not trying to do that. And no, I don't work for the land bank. No, I don't. I've had cases where I've had to represent people against the land bank. But that is, I thought that was outrageous. Bernard Youngblood should have been replaced along. You talking about the treasurer? He's no longer the treasurer. Youngblood is gone. But you're right. He stayed in office a long time, and I understand that he was very wealthy when he left office. Queen
Hey,
Bee.
True Sensation, how are you tonight? It's good to see you on the show tonight.
You guys don't keep up with what's going on in the hood. Y'all gotta get with it. Allan, I'm surprised you didn't know anything about it.
No, I read in the Free
And what's your opinion about it? Have you seen the property?
I
have
have
you been over in that area?
I have not.
Oh, I'm gonna mess with you now because
I'm East Side. I'm a West Sider, although I live.
Nobody crosses Woodward. West Siders don't cross Woodward.
You were quick to say a couple weeks ago.
I haven't.
About the mayor and how he did so many wonderful things.
Look,
in neighborhoods in the city of Detroit, you said Rosedale Park. You said Indianville, the places that are doing well. That area over there.
I haven't been, partly because of my injury. I haven't driven in 4 months. I just started driving again.
Oh my God! Get off the road. Allan's out there.
Yes, but I do go to the East Side on occasion, but I'm more of a West Side person. But I do know some of the East Side, but the West Side, that's where I kind of have more familiarity with. So.
Wow. Eric says, here's a topic. He understands that perfecting church is asking the people for assistance to complete the church. Now, you guys remember when we was on the radio and we sounded the alarm about, it was like over 21 years, because I did the research that they were building this church up there on 7 Mile and Woodward, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they
East Side or West Side?
That's West Side. They hired counsel. They went to court. They cut some deal so the church would be, because somebody wanted to buy that property because it'd been, they hadn't done anything. Which, we could juxtapose that with the guy that's over, the guy who got the paper from the land bank. So now Eric is saying that they're talking about, yes, I can. Now, yes, I can, Sheila. But now you're talking about now the church is asking people for assistance to complete it. Are you kidding me?
It's on the east side, by the way, of Woodward.
What? It's on the east side of Woodward. Yeah, I guess you're right.
Yeah.
You're
I was just asking. I
absolutely
don't
right.
know.
You're absolutely right because when they had
West
the
side,
golfing tournament, when they had the big golfing tournament, they put all that tarp up so people couldn't see it. It doesn't look as bad as it was before because they have made some progress in reference to that. But that's interesting. Are you going to are you going to make any donations for the completion
me?
of perfecting church? Yes.
I probably not.
He's a West Sider. It's on the
I
East Side of
donate.
Wood.
I donate a lot of money, but you got to kind of pick and choose. You can't give
I
every
am directionally challenged. You're absolutely right, Eric.
cause. But
I want to say thanks, Vanessa, and thanks to Sanford Plotkin for clearing up the administrative justice issue because the people don't know when they think due process, they think the U.S. Constitution and they think a trial and it's an administrative process instead of a criminal process. So they're not being convicted
Right.
of breaking into the country. They're being administratively charged, so they're not being criminally charged. Is that right?
well, it's also the thing is if you commit a crime,
Charge is a process. I don't like saying charge, but go ahead.
Well, it's a crime, right?
If you're involved in a violent crime or something, you can be, even if you're illegal here, you can be charged and prosecuted and have a jury trial. But after you're done serving your time, then they have to decide whether they want to deport you or not, or
through an administrative process.
Yeah,
even though crossing the border is an illegal act, you can't get a jury trial for crossing the border.
Well,
I mean, selling people land is an illegal act too. You took it from the Indians, so I mean,
good point.
What the hey? I mean, that was illegal. Stealing is illegal.
Yeah, I mean,
kidnapping is illegal.
They sometimes
go back to the subject that Eric brought out. Kidnapping is illegal. So let's not. I mean, we can go there, but do we really want to go there? So again, we pick on people, small people, and I don't think that that's cool. To me, that's bullying, and that's not cool at all. There is a process that you should go through in order to become an American citizen. I talked to a student the other night, and he said, Professor Moss, as soon as my family came over here, we did what we were supposed to do. But they had the monetary means to do what they needed to do in order to become citizens of the United States. Everybody does not have that. Okay? And I'm not saying we need to fund it because, no, I am a firm believer that you need to take care of home first before you start taking care of others.
I have friends.
You could do two things at the same time. Yes, Allan.
I have friends who are immigrants who are here. One's a doctor. They're here on on visas and all that, working visas or whatever. That costs money to deal with immigration attorneys. They have to dish out
doing nothing for free.
$10,000 to just get their papers in order to extend their green cards.
And that's cheap.
Yeah, but
that's cheap.
It takes money to do it the right way. Yeah.
Yep. Eric says DACA should be the only pathway to citizenship. Queen Bee said, "Don't nobody hate undocumented folks more than the documented one."
That seems to be true. That seems to be accurate.
Right. And Sanford Plotkin said Custer was in charge.
And Marlon's asking where the east side, west side. I always thought it was Woodward. So
that's basically the dividing line.
Yeah, that's basically the dividing line. That's true. That is true.
But if you live,
John R. is on the west side.
If you live like at Woodward, if you live just over the line on the east side, I don't think a lot of
which
people.
Is where perfecting churches just over the line.
Well, yeah, it's not an east side church.
That's why I said west side, but you're absolutely correct. It is the east side.
And some roads can cross Woodward. I think so. They could be on both sides, right? Is there any roads that cross Woodward? Is the question.
You said what now?
Is there any roads that are on that go north and south, or I guess north and south that might cross Woodward? Maybe there aren't. Maybe I'm wrong. So my point is, you could be on one side. If it's the east and west, you could be on the east side or the west side, right?
Well, it often do you come to Detroit, Jim?
If it's Warren, and Warren's on both sides, right?
I thought you were a cop, Jim. What are you talking about?
I spent enough time there.
I'm directionally challenged. Jim, the police officer is
I spent a
directionally.
lot of time in Detroit.
I'm on the east
But
side.
Outer Drive, if you're on Outer Drive, you could be anywhere. That's my
I'm
point.
on the east side of Woodward, but I don't consider myself the east side of Detroit.
I mean, you could be on Outer Drive and you have no idea.
Why you don't consider yourself an East Sider? Are you
Because
just
it's
trying to
really,
say something about East Siders?
we're
Are you
talking
trying to
about.
say something about East Siders?
No. I grew up on
You
the
better not be saying nothing about East Siders.
east side, man.
The East Siders are usually a little tougher than the West Siders.
They used to always say the West Siders were afraid of the East Siders, but I don't know.
You know what? It depends on what side of the West Side you're from, and depends on what side of the East Side.
Yeah.
I got you, David. What I meant is it goes east across Woodward.
Right, David.
That's what I meant, David.
South.
Some people can say Warren, and you can say East Side or West Side.
Right. I am proud to say that I'm a product of the city of Detroit. I lived on both sides of the city. I lived on the east side, west side and the east side. And I live deep west, Midwest, and deep east and mid east. So
I could tell you where all the so you're saying the 5th precinct or the 10th precinct, or that's how I kind of remember.
I have some good news for Jim. The Detroit Institute of Bagels, which shut last year, is now going to reopen.
Where? On Grand River? Is it going to reopen on Grand River?
Yeah, 15th and Grand River. It's going to reopen sometime this spring as Bev's Bagels. It's a guy who's operated a restaurant. He's from here, but he operated restaurants in New York and stuff.
Hide behind bagels. Them things so doggone expensive. It's ridiculous.
But they're good bagels.
I'm sorry. They so doggone high. It's ridiculous. I went over there. Adolph was like, Vanessa, you want a bagel? Go there. I went in there.
Yeah, their prices are high. Look, you can get there. They were charging $14 for a bagel and lox. You go to New York Bagel and Woodward, you get it for like $6 or $7. They were charging New York prices there, and it's not. So I agree. They were very.
Yes, Miss Sheila, they do. All those roads cross. Woodward.
Right. So it was 9:27. Do you have any parting thoughts, Allan?
I just want to say I watched the Detroit Pistons play last night at home against the New York Knicks, who are one of the top teams in the Eastern Conference, and the Pistons looked amazing, and they won. They came from behind. They were down 10 points, and they won. So it's fun to watch. I used to be a huge Pistons fan, and then I kind of lost it because they were so bad for so many years. And this year, they had a really good team. So.
Okay. What about you, Jim?
I just wanted to say thank you to Allan and Vanessa and everybody that communicated tonight and taught me something, because there's a lot. I learned a lot tonight, and I'm thankful for that. Keep it up. Thanks.
So what I'm going to say is thank you to each and every last one of you guys that participated. And listen, I tried to be a woman of my word. We were supposed to start this rollout to have some of our viewers at least come in, make 30-minute comments, to Zoom in. And I didn't get it together. So I'm going to take responsibility for that. But this weekend, I'm going to work on that so we could try to roll it out next week. We definitely appreciate each and every one of you that watch the show, and each and every one of you that make comments and contribute to the show, because like Jim said earlier, listen, we give you guys something and you give us something back. I learned a lot from our viewers. There are things that I don't know. I don't read everything. I have enough to read on a daily basis. But and so I'm very appreciative. We are very appreciative that you guys interact with us. So we're looking forward to seeing you guys tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. We will be live tomorrow, and we will be at McShane's on the corner of Trumbull and Michigan Avenue. If you guys are coming down, you are welcome to come down and cheer us on. Detroit in black and white. We will see you tomorrow. Adolph will be with us tomorrow. Marlon, come on back on Saturday. You said you'll look in, so we expect for you to. Marcia Gilmore, thank you. Dewayla, thank you. Edward, Sheila, Queen B.
Derek and Timothy.
Eric,
Better late than never, right?
Deborah
Timothy and
G. Yes, Deborah G. Love Deborah G's comments. Uh, I think Early was on here earlier today. I mean, earlier this evening. Thank you so much, Sanford. Thank you so much for participating, Sanford. Uh, and you must be really special if you're friends with Allan Lengel. Thanks, Sam.
He's a very good friend. We've known each other a lot.
Yeah.
Sandy used to be with the Federal Defender's Office, and now he's in
Okay.
private practice.
All right. Thanks, Sam Altman. We'll see you tomorrow. Peace out. East side.